So Yanjiang, I mean, in a matter of weeks, China's going to be hosting the Beijing Olympics. And I mean, my God, if any of these athletes end up showing up with COVID, I mean, you know, what kind of a message is that going to be sending to the Chinese people who are dealing with these incredibly repressive measures at home?
Well, I think that they're confident that the precaution measures they just announced will be sufficient to minimize new infections in the bubble and also to minimize the exposure, right, of the Chinese people to the new variant. You know, so they have the lessons from the Tokyo Summer Olympics. You know, to try to fix the loopholes. You know, like the Tokyo Games. You know, that the people, even they were not fully vaccinated, could still participate. But now what China basically told them, you have to be fully vaccinated. Otherwise, you have to spend 3 weeks in China before you can enter the bubble, right? So people also, those participants are not allowed to leave the bubble before the games are over. So they hope these measures will, right, be effective. You know, even though there might be small outbreaks or new infections, it's going to be confined in the bubble.
Because we know fully vaccinated doesn't cut it when it comes to Omicron. So again, it just sounds like they're taking, suddenly with the Olympics, they're taking a lot more risk than they're taking around anything else in China.
Yeah, absolutely, right. This is the problem of that zero COVID strategy is that they cannot tolerate even like one infection, no matter how mild it is, right? But we know even the best vaccines cannot prevent people from getting infected. Right, so in that sense, but even the high vaccination rate as high as 86% becomes irrelevant, right, in terms of fulfilling the expectations of that strategy.
You know, one of the things that's been interesting to me is the fact that the Chinese, of course, through all of this, are traveling so much less. And indeed, the Chinese president has not left the country since January of 2020. Do you feel that Chinese leaders, Chinese elites, are themselves becoming more isolated from the rest of the world? And do you think that some of that may end up permanent even after we're done with the pandemic?
Well, I think the last thing China want, or Chinese leaders want, is to be isolated at the international stage, right? Diplomatically, economically, and politically. So, you know, I think especially when other countries learn to live with the virus, right, and that the pandemic's becoming an endemic, right? I think the China will find that the zero tolerance strategy unsustainable, right? Well, it may be still able to sustain it for another 1 year, but I doubt it's going to take longer than 1 or 2 years. So eventually they have to abandon that approach anyway. Opening up then becomes, I think, a more likely prospect.